Hello, my name's Alondra, and today we'll be talking about Xanax, or you might know them as Xannies. So, what exactly is a Xanax? A Xanax is also known as alprazolam, which is used to treat anxiety and panic disorders. It belongs to a class of medications called benzodiazepines, which act on the brain and nerves, also known as the central nervous system, to produce a calming effect. Xanax are normally in the form of pills. Xannies were first approved in the 1970s. The Michigan-based pharmaceutical company Upjohn, which is now a division of Pfizer, initially made Xanax available as a treatment for panic disorders in 1981. Because it quickly reduces anxiety, it gained a lot of popularity. With more than 50 million prescriptions issued each year, Xanax is one of the most widely prescribed anti-anxiety medications in the United States. That makes it one of the most abused, which is unfortunate. Xanax was once thought to have a low misuse potential. Only until use and misuse became pervasive did the risk of addiction and withdrawal become apparent. Xanax is a Schedule 4 prohibited substance under the law because of its abuse and addiction risk. These drugs are some of the most highly addictive prescription drugs in the market, and they can hook a user within a matter of mere weeks. Daily use of benzodiazepines for 6 weeks or more will result in dependency for 4 in every 10 users. Throughout time, many types of Xanax have been created. To name a few, we have the white Xanax, which is the most common drug dealer pill. We also have the red devil Xanax, which is a Xanax that is manufactured without clinical trials or approval from the FDA. It usually contains a much higher dosage of alprazolam. And then there is the fake Xanax, which can be extremely dangerous because you never really know what it contains. Many fakes may have absolutely no trace of alprazolam. Instead, they may contain extremely unsafe and addictive drugs. Talking about addiction, when it comes to Xannies, tolerance is one of the earliest signs of this. Even as a therapeutic drug, Xanax loses its effectiveness when tolerance sets in. Anxious people will experience a reoccurrence of their symptoms and may be tempted to increase their dosage to prevent reoccurrence. The brain becomes more dependent on the medicine to feel normal throughout this process. People who are mentally dependent on Xanax won't be able to stop thinking about the drug. Along with the health risks of detoxing alone, it can be very difficult to stop using without professional help because users' minds are constantly pushing them to relapse. The risk may be higher if you have a substance use disorder. In the case of Xanax, physical addiction is marked by physical withdrawal symptoms that ensue when the substance is discontinued. Some common side effects include headaches, nausea, vomiting, profuse sweating, blurred vision, and convulsions. Orally ingested Xanax is quickly absorbed. As a result, effects starts to take action in around 30 minutes and can last up to 6 hours. Alprazolam's most typical side effects are trouble speaking, low blood pressure, poor coordination, and increased libido. Another set of effects are decreased mental alertness, confusion, trouble concentrating, memory impairment, drowsiness or fatigue, and much more. And now talking about federal regulations. In California, unlawful possessions of benzodiazepines is a wobbler felony that is in violation. Depending on the specifics of the case, wobbler offenses might either be charged as misdemeanors or felonies. Either charge carries a potential sentence of up to a year in prison or even longer. Moving on to personal experience, thankfully, I've never done any drugs at all. I do have friends though that do them, and they have tried to peer pressure me into it, but I've stayed away. Something that can relate to this topic, I guess, as a personal experience, would be my uncle. He is addicted to many drugs, and one of them includes Xanax. His addiction to this pill is so strong, and he simply does not want to receive help. We've tried for many years and years to put him into rehab, and he'll go for a little bit. He'll stay there for a month or two, but then he'll run away, and then he'll lose connection with us. it makes me very sad because sometimes we find him at the in our backyard sleeping on the floor, and he doesn't say anything. Whenever we try to encourage him to leave his addiction behind or encourage him to try to settle down for his wife and his kids, he simply ignores us and he gets mad. He tells us that we don't understand him and he just disappeared and doesn't come back for a long time. I really do hope that one day he comes to realize that he's just throwing away his life when he can have such a bright future ahead of him. Moving on into the awareness integration process, I just want to say that this was a unique experience. I've never tried something like this, and the things I've tried, they usually never work. But this was a bit different. So the three categories that I picked that influenced me the most and that I worked on the most were strangers, my body, and my mom. When it comes to strangers, I don't know why, but I always overthink it. I don't even know the person, but when I see them looking at me, or if I were to pass by them and they start laughing, I always think that they're laughing at me, or that they don't like me, or that they're talking about me. I don't know why. Like this person probably doesn't even know that I exist. They don't even know me. But it's just my head that directly goes into overthinking. Like, oh, maybe they're laughing at me. Oh, maybe they're saying this and that about me. When in reality, they're not. They're just minding their own business. So what I did to work on this area was I just tried thinking positive thoughts. I tried smiling at the stranger. I found ways to convince myself that it was all in my head, because in reality it was. Whenever I would pass by a stranger or a group of people, I would just think positive thoughts and take a deep breath and focus on something else. I chose the area of my body because for such a long time I've had trouble with self-love. It's something that I would work on, but then something small would happen and I would start from ground zero all over again. But I also did realize that I had to be strict with myself when it came to exercising, having a diet, just doing what I can to appreciate myself. I also realized that it's my body and I shouldn't care what other people say as long as I feel comfortable with myself. The last section I chose was my mom and the relationship I had with my mom. Before the start of this project, this semester, I felt like it was hard to talk to her because she would, in a way, scold me about certain things, and she wouldn't really listen to me. It was more of her being the mom, when in reality, I wanted her to be my best friend who understood me and who could give me advice and not yell at me. So what I did to fix this problem was that I spoke to her. I sat down with her and I had a serious conversation. I told her how I felt and how I wanted her to be my best friend who I can tell anything I wanted without being scared that I was going to get in trouble. And she slowly started to understand it. I was getting older and my way of seeing things was changing. So for my mission statement, I picked the quote by Billie Eilish that says, "I've always done whatever I want and always been exactly who I am." The reason why I picked this was because it's true. I mean, we should be free to do whatever we want and live the life we want as long as we're happy and as long as it doesn't involve other people getting hurt. We have one life and one life only. And while we can have fun, we should also be careful with what decisions we make, but we shouldn't let other people dictate how we should live or dictate the person we should be. We should decide that. There's no need to change our person for others because they wouldn't do the same for us. To wrap up this presentation, these are the resources I use. Thank you so much for listening.